All right, we are live. Welcome to another Saturday morning episode of Money Mornings Live, brought to you by Total Debt Freedom, Rich Cooper and Andrew Cooper. What's going on, bro?
Same old. Good morning.
So let's get some housekeeping out of the way first. If you guys are watching elsewhere on the interwebs, it helps me out a ton if you can head on over to the YouTubes. It's just easier for me to keep a eye on the chat and any questions that come up as we cast. So today's show, we're going to be talking about how who you think you owe may not be who you think you owe, because this is a little something that credit card companies have done for quite some time now, and it baffles a lot of people. So I think that we're going to spend a little time on this one. This shouldn't be too long of a show. I think we can cover this pretty quickly, but I think it's worth dedicating one show to as we kind of rip through all these topics. So you're in the office every day, Andrew. This is something that you guys deal with often. You know, people have some debt and then they get confused about how the origin of that debt, moves around. It's like people have an attachment to it. It's like if they live at an address and then all of a sudden, their address changes from underneath them, it's usually a big surprise, right? So talk about the origin of the story a little bit.
Well, it just it happens more frequently than we'd like, and the example for this instance just popped up in the last week or so, which is why we wanted to cover it in a topic of our Saturday morning show. Essentially, there's a telephone ringing.
Yeah. I'll just mute myself. Go ahead.
All right. So essentially, what we had is we had a client that had a loan product with a institution from many years ago, and the account number has changed. And this is one of the topics of today's show we wanted to talk about. Not only does the name of the creditor change, but occasionally the account number will change. And that really puts a curveball into our program as well as the client's knowledge, because when payments are being remitted, if the account number is now all of a sudden different, or if the name of the creditor is different, then there may be some complications. So in terms of the name change, which is what we wanted to talk about first, nothing prohibits banks from being bought out by other institutions. Nothing prohibits banks from changing their name if they felt like changing their name, or if they feel like changing their name. And they do it for various different reasons. So what you need to do is you need to ensure that you got some sort of paper trail that confirms that your original loan, let's just say it was with ABC Bank, is now with XYZ Bank, and they've sent you something in writing to tell you this. Now, I've seen more often than not that these letters in the mail have been provided to the cardholder to say that the account's been sold, but some clients don't get these documentations and these notices. So it makes things very complicated when there's a collection call and the client's calling our office saying, "Hey, I got a call from this company called XYZ. I've never heard of this. I don't know who they are. What are they?" And then we have to look at the paper trail. We have to look at the history of the account. And it comes to our attention eventually that we've noticed that account was sold by different creditors. So you definitely need to pay attention to what's what. You need to know, and you got to track your documents that you get from your creditors. A lot of the time you get something in the mail, you look at it, you're like, okay, I really don't care, and you throw it out. And that's because it might be the terms and conditions that have been changed. That happens, once a year. It might be an update to your annual fee on your checking account, which goes up usually annually. You look at it, you're like, I don't care, and you throw it out. So you just got to pay attention to the document to ensure you're reading it thoroughly. And if it's something that you need to keep, such as that the name will be changing or the account number will be changing, that you keep it for your records. You keep it in a file and you track it so that you know that's what's happened.
All right. And I'm going to add to that because Andrew always will talk at a more advanced level. So I'm going to break this down to the elements. Banks don't care about you. You don't have a relationship with that credit card company. You're a number on a spreadsheet to the banks and credit card companies. They sell assets all the time. So if they have a portfolio of, 8 million cardholders on a certain product, and products can be, when you're called in a product line, you can be different credit card products, whether it's under a Visa or a MasterCard brand or a retail store. They sell these things all the time. When banks merge, then they repurpose debt. I mean, believe it or not, debt is an asset to the banks and credit card companies. If they have 8 million cardholders with a portfolio balance of, $1 trillion or something like that. I'm just making up numbers here, but that is an asset on their balance sheet. And if they want to merge with another bank, another financial institution, if they want to sell off, like, it doesn't even have to be the bank merging. They can just take a product line and say, we don't want to deal with this anymore. Let's put it out on the open market for sale. And another financial institution in Canada can buy up that list of 8 million customers. And then it transfers over from something that you're familiar with to something you've never heard of. I remember when I was in collections many, many moons ago, we would often talk to people and you'd call them up and you'd say, I'm calling about this debt. And they have no recollection of it whatsoever. And they'd hang up on you because they don't recognize it. It's like, saying, hi, sir, I'm calling you from the Honda dealership. Your car's ready to be picked up now. And you know that you drive a Ford. You're going to be like, who the hell are you talking to? You don't recognize it. You kind of let it go. So don't overlook these things. Banks don't care about you. I've said this a million times. I'll keep saying it. You're just a number on the spreadsheet. Don't think for a second that you have a direct relationship with them for any reason whatsoever. You're just a number on a spreadsheet that determines how much profit is accumulated in that pool, in that book of business. So this does happen, happens more frequently than not. Keep an eye on statements when they come in the mail. They do have to notify you. I mean, legally, they have to notify you that they've sold off a portfolio or they're merging with the bank and it's going to go under this new name or this new brand. This is your new account number that's associated with the X number balance that you owe. It can be confusing, but that's really the way that it works. I mean, that's the meat and potato of it. Do we need to cover anything else or have we said enough on this?
Well, on that, changing in the name is what we've covered. I want to also talk about changing of the account number, which you just, I guess, mentioned at the end of your talk right there. That's the second thing that banks will commonly do is they change their account number, and that makes things extremely complicated and frustrating because when you're trying to settle an account and the client gives you an account number saying, okay, this is my Visa card number, and then you get a statement with a different Visa card number, you're like, well, what is this? This is not the card that you were intending to settle. So you have to verify with the client, in our case, how many products they've had, ensure that that's the only product, why the account number might have changed. Now, account numbers changed actually quite a bit about 8 years ago or so when chip technology came about. When chip technology came about for credit cards, almost every credit card number was changed. The bank would send you a new credit card and say, here's your new chip technology card, and there's a new Visa or MasterCard number associated with it. So we've seen this increasingly over the years when the chip technology came about. But there are other lenders, and lenders are creditors, banks, whatnot, institutions that will change their account numbers at the time of what is known as write-off, which is approximately 6 months into default. So when you default for 6 consecutive months, the bank writes off what is owed on the product to get a small tax credit from the government. And some banks will sign it another account number. It's very complicated and frustrating when you see account numbers continually changing and the client does not have any recollection or any notice of these things. So you got to pay attention. That's why I'm saying you got to pay attention to your documents. You might even get a document from one creditor, the original creditor, that says, let's just use the example of City Financial. City Financial were an institution named many years ago, and they would give you a letter with an account number on it. Now they renamed themselves Fairstone, I think within the last 5, 6, 7 years. And so all of a sudden you might now get a statement from Fairstone with a different account number. Now in the first letter, they might've said, we're renaming or we are rebranding and our name will change to Fairstone and you will receive a new account number. But the next letter that they generate and send to you is a brand new statement with a brand new account number. But on that letter, in my opinion, it should state your account number has become 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 from your previous account number, and then they should specify that, but they don't do that. And unfortunately, that's why there's a lot of confusion, but you just got to pay attention to your documents. Like Richard said, you need to understand that there's nothing personal. You're not really a client of these financial institutions. You are a number on a spreadsheet. It's all about margins and profits to them. So they'll do whatever they can to make money and to get better profit and margins for their shareholders. And that's just the name of the game that they work in. So you just got to pay attention to the numbers and the documents to ensure you know what debts and who you owe money to.
100%. Okay, on that note, let's wrap it up before we go. If you do have over $15,000 worth of credit card debt, in the ticker below, there's the information to get a free quote at totaldebtfreedom.ca. You can get your debt reduced by about 50 to 70% and clear it up. Depending on your budget, you could do it as quickly as a couple of years. Most people do it over 3 or 4 years. But again, you have to live in Canada. It's got to be over 15 grand. And really the litmus test is what you've been doing hasn't been working. You've been throwing money at your debt balances. You've been watching it for months. It hasn't put a dent in it whatsoever. If what you're doing isn't working, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Below, you can hit that. Actually, you can't click the link, but I'll put the link in the pinned top description afterwards. I'm choking on my coffee here. It's a two-step process. Fill out the form when you land on the page at totaldebtfreedom.ca with your name, your email address, your number, how much debt you have. And then after you've done that, do not exit. Go and schedule in a call with a representative. It's a big waste of your time just filling out the form and running off the page. Make sure you schedule in a call if you want to get the most out of it. The office is equipped to even establish if it's not the best fit for what you owe. So if something like a bankruptcy might work better, or taking out equity from your from your home, they'll recommend a better solution to your debt problems. But again, over 15 grand, unsecured debt, so mostly credit card debt, live in Canada, go do something about it. We'll see you guys next Saturday, same time, same place. If you have a topic that you'd like us to cover in a show, the comments section is open. Just do your little thing with your fingers and type away and let us know what's up and what it is you'd like to hear about. Thanks, Andrew.
No problem. Thanks, guys.